Hey everyone, this is Helena Hart, and I'm so excited to be talking with Orchid Tao today. Orchid is a dating and empowerment coach for women, and today we're going to be talking about what makes a man see you as a high-value woman that he never wants to live without. So welcome, Orchid, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Helena. I'm happy to be here.
I've been so excited for this interview because I know this is a really big topic that I get asked about all the time from women. I see it in the comment sections of pretty much all of my videos. So what are some things, let's just jump right in today. What are some things that make a man see you as that super high value woman that he never wants to lose because he just feels so good every time he's around you?
So it really starts with something invisible, and it really starts with your worth, your own sense of yourself, your self-image, and your self-value. So oftentimes when women date, especially when there's a man in front of them that they're super attracted to, they have tons of chemistry with, they want this guy to want them so bad, they lose sight of whether or not this person really is right for them or not. And they approach dating asking, am I good enough for him? When no matter what, you should always approach dating as, is he good enough for me? And not in a condescending, snobby, bitchy, or domineering way, but in a graceful way, in a way that is just really looking out for yourself, protecting your heart, and, you know, just really standing in your value. And when you approach dating with a high sense of self-worth, and you come to the table really with the agenda of, is he right for me? Is he good enough for me? As far as, is he going to be able to show up for me in the way that I want and need? Is he going to be able to meet my wants and needs? And that's what you're really looking for. That's the come from that you need to have. And when he'll know that difference between the woman who does that and the woman who's coming to the table like, oh, I want you to like me. I hope you like me. Oh my gosh, what else can I do, you know, for you to like me? And that, no, is going to totally be not attractive.
I completely agree. Yes, I always say a man can't value you any more than you value and respect yourself, right? And I also know that it can be easy when we really like a guy and we're feeling like really attracted to him and starting to get some strong feelings. I totally understand this tendency to want to like put him on a pedestal, right? And when we do that, we can't help it. You know, it's kind of a human nature thing. It like stirs something up in us and causes us to jump into our masculine energy and want to like go after him or prove ourselves to him and like win him over, like win his love in some way. So do you have any tips for women who are at that place? I see this so often in the comment sections of pretty much all of my videos too. They really like a guy and you can tell that they've put him on a pedestal, and that dynamic is just never going to work for them. So what are some things a woman can do to start turning that around?
Yeah, really visualize that, right? You're seeing him on a pedestal. Take him off the pedestal. Take him off the pedestal. He's on equal ground with you. And then really, you have to develop emotional and physical discipline so that you're not falling in love with the fantasy and a possibility, that you're really in touch with the reality of what's going on. And ask yourself, is there any real evidence that he is the one? And, you know, if you are feeling like you're not important, that you're not a priority, that you're not being seen or heard or cherished, you don't feel safe, or you just don't feel loved, then chances are he's not meeting your wants and needs, and you're in love with a possibility or a fantasy. So really come to terms with what's really going on. And I have to say that for me, I really had to have support from a coach to develop that muscle, that emotional and physical discipline, to not jump ahead of myself or have sex with the guy before I really know if he can meet my wants and needs and whether or not he's right for me.
Absolutely. I know we both have kind of similar backgrounds of being attracted to emotionally unavailable men, right? And
Yeah.
I just totally understand. I call it betting on potential. Like, well, it would be so great if he were contacting me more. It would be so great if he was as into me as I was into him. And it's so easy to get caught up in that dynamic. But I really found that men, they all dream of, like, you know, winning over their dream girl and hoping she says yes. They don't have this dream of ending up with some woman who's pining after him or strategizing or trying to like lock him down into some commitment. So I totally understand that. So owning your own value, knowing your own value first, that's what I heard you say. I think that's phenomenal. Do you have any other tips on really how to raise your value in your own eyes so that a man naturally sees you as this high value woman?
Your value in your own eyes. Oh yeah. This is an ongoing practice, I feel, you know, to really, when you work on your value enough and you really develop the self-worth, there's a tipping point where, you know, I used to have extremely low self-esteem, extremely low confidence, extremely low worth, where I would certainly accept crumbs and be treated very badly and stick around for years. And, you know, what I did initially, what really made me think about changing that and the tool that worked for me was really being aware of my self-talk. And, you know, this is something that is an ongoing process and practice where you are aware of what you're saying to yourself. You're really being aware of that critical, punishing lady in your head that's always beating you up and making you feel less than, and really just making sure that you're in the driver's seat rather than her, and really choosing beliefs and thoughts that are nourishing to you, encouraging, supportive, that really enhance your self-esteem. Like, Orchid, you're beautiful. You are enough. You're more than enough, no matter what any man does or does not do. That really gave me a lot of power. You are worthy and lovable no matter what any man does or does not do. And that allows you to be able to approach the table. Hey, are you good enough for me? And stay in your power.
I love that. And I've never really heard it put that way before, no matter what he's doing or not doing. I see so many women sort of placing their worth, like their self-esteem is hinging on what a man does, or even their mood. A man is contacting her, she feels great. Then he disappears, she feels devastated. And her self-worth and the way she feels emotionally is so dependent on what a man is doing or not doing. So I love what you said there. It also sounds like there's inner work, the way you're talking to yourself, and working from the outside in as well. I heard you mention not tolerating bad behavior, not just accepting crumbs from men. That's a really common situation I hear from all the time in women, and I've certainly experienced that myself in my past. What would you say to a woman who is feeling attached to a man who's only giving her crumbs and she's kind of hanging on to him, you know, because she's afraid she'll lose him if she doesn't tolerate what's going on?
Mm-hmm. So, you know, the best thing to do is to address things, that behaviors and treatment that you don't like, that don't feel good, early on, and to ask for what you want and need gracefully. So, for instance, I'll give you an example of a client of mine. She's a single mother, and she actually thought, you know, I'm really unattractive and no one would want me because I have these 2 young children. And she actually hid that for a while. But when we started working together, of course, you know, I helped her to build up her confidence so she could show up in her value, loving herself, honoring herself, you know, fully. And when she showed up that way, she attracted a man who loved her children, wanted to have more children, wanted to get married, everything she wanted. And during the course of their dating, he took her to Bali. And during this trip, on this trip, they were out shopping, and he said, oh, I'm going to get a bracelet for this woman who works for me. And it really triggered her, you know, that he was going to get a gift for another woman that wasn't her. But she, you know, had learned through our coaching together not to be reactive and just lash out in anger or attack him. So when we coached around it, I had her certainly speak up for how she felt and ask for what she needed very gracefully. And we did it like this. We used the hamburger method, where the first thing we did was compliment him. Hey, you know, John, you are so generous. I appreciate that so much about you, your generosity, your thoughtfulness. Thank you for this trip and for taking care of me and, you know, and providing, being a great provider. I also want to express that I felt really insecure and jealous and threatened when you wanted to buy a bracelet for the woman that worked for you. It would really make me so happy if you only reserved those gestures for me. It would make me feel so special and wonderful. And he said, sure, babe, no worries. You got it. It's done. And that's, you know, so often we're so afraid to ask for those, what we really want and need, because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to admit those things. We want to act cool, but that will come back and really sabotage everything, because you're going to be so resentful and angry. And you really want the man that's going to honor your needs, care about how you feel. And by asking for it, that's how you show your value. It's like, hey, I really, just inherently in doing so, you're demonstrating that you deserve to be treated well, that you deserve to have your wants and needs met. And that's you know, certainly a very important and crucial way to show your value to a man.
I totally agree. I love that story. That's like a perfect example. And I'm like laughing over here because I see it in clients all the time. And I've definitely been there myself. When you stuff things down, when you stuff down your feelings and your needs in an attempt to come across as like low maintenance, or you're afraid to lose a guy, right? We can pretty much guarantee that's going to come out later in other ways, because anger and resentment are going to start to build. And it really doesn't do anything good for the relationship dynamic either, because men, we think they're clueless, but they're pretty sensitive. They can feel it when we're like feeling something strongly, but we're not expressing it. So I love what you said about the hamburger method. I'd love for you to talk some more about that. It sounds like the first piece would be like appreciation or something. The middle piece would be your request or your boundary or something. Do I have that right? And what's the last piece?
And then the last piece would be after you express what was bothering you and what you would like, you say, and thank you again. You know, I just want to thank you again and acknowledge you for how generous and thoughtful you are.
I love that. Okay, so appreciation and acknowledgement, state your request or desire or boundary, and then like, thank you, acknowledge him again. I love that. That is great. That is fantastic. I don't have anything like that. You know, I haven't heard anything like that put in that way. I love the idea of the hamburger method. Makes it really easy. It's like a great template that anyone can just, you know, stick in their situation there. So what would you say, let's talk about boundaries a little bit. Because I know that they're so hugely important when it comes to building your value in a man's eyes. I just love to hear anything you have to say about boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I love boundaries. They turn your life around, ladies, and get you what you want.
Yes.
Okay. So let me give you an example of, I was dating this man a few years ago, and we were, you know, I was sitting on his lap. It was very early on in dating. You know, he's you know, super handsome, whatever, gorgeous guy. And I was sitting on his lap. We were talking about politics, and he was, you know, we're totally opposites. And he was expressing his view, and I was expressing mine. But when I expressed mine, he literally got up and like pushed me off his lap, like that is so stupid, and you know, I can't believe that you even think that. and just totally like attacking my view and me, and just like the rudeness of getting up and making me fall off his lap. I was just like, you know what? This is over. This is over. Nobody treats me that way, and I don't want to see you again. Like right there, it was just, I'm calling it off. And he was shocked and he left. And then the next day, he just called back. I really apologize for my behavior. Actually, he started crying when I said it was over. You know, I didn't yell or attack or blame, but I stood up for myself. I drew a boundary that was very clear, and that was, you know, that respected and honored me. And I let him know and see what was wrong with what he did. And he started crying, and then he left. But he, you know, the next day he took responsibility. He was super sorry. And, you know, so you've got to do that kind of thing, ladies.
Yeah,
it's a little more drastic, but
yeah, it takes a lot of strength to do that too. And I love what you said earlier about catching these things early, because, you know, I totally get it. You get wrapped up in the chemistry or your feelings for a man, and it can be easy to miss some of these like red flags or let some things slide, only to have them keep showing up over and over again in the relationship. And that's when you start feeling constantly disappointed, or you feel this like resentment building. Do you have any tips on maybe like some red flags to watch out for, or how to catch those things early and just state your boundary right away so you don't kind of like let those things creep in over time?
Yeah, first you have to be very clear. I like personalized red flags. Be very clear about what you've experienced in the past that didn't make you feel good, that made you feel shitty, you know, and really know what that is. And when it shows up again in the next man, I want you to address it. Like, for instance, one thing that really bothers me is like how a lot of men would be like, oh my God, look at this. Look at Shakira's ass. Oh my God, doesn't it look so good? And they're like shoving it in your face. And it's like every man I've dated, almost every man has felt like totally okay with doing that. Like it's normal, and it is culturally. But to me, I don't care how normal it is. I feel like it's rude and disrespectful. So, you know what? I found like there was a commonality of behaviors in men that I just didn't like. And when I would go on a date with them, I would actually address this so far in advance. I would actually sometimes tell them before it even happened. And it's really how you tell them. You just say, hey, you know what? I know this is something really common that happens. And so I just want to say something before it does happen. Because if it does happen, I'm not going to feel good about it. And here's what it is. If this bothers me, I would really appreciate it if, you didn't do that and you were just mindful of that. How do you feel about that?
That is great. You know, what I love about that is you're not blaming him. You're not making him wrong. You didn't even say the word, you didn't even refer to his behavior at all. Just, something that happens that, kind of triggers me or it bothers me a little bit is this. And I've found that most men will be thrilled to know what makes you happy or what doesn't feel good to you, right? It's like a cheat sheet. You're like handing them a cheat sheet.
Yes.
Most men are good guys who want to make you happy, right? So this has been great. I know boundaries are so important and it can be difficult to express them sometimes, but it's really, really huge. Are there any last tips or tools or words of wisdom you have on how to build your value, or what makes a man see you as that high value woman that he never wants to live without? I'd love to hear anything else you have to say about this.
Yes. So it's really, first of all, starts with your relationship with yourself, that you honor and value yourself, that you really know that you deserve to have your wants and needs met. That is really the core thing that makes a man respect and honor you and treat you well, is when you really believe with all your heart and your mind that you deserve to have your wants and needs met, that they're not too much, that you're not ashamed of them. You don't have to apologize for them. I don't care what your needs are. It's really how you express these things to him that's really going to either come across to him as, oh, wow, I really care about you, and I hear you and I empathize, and I'm definitely going to meet your needs. Or if you come across ungracefully, then of course no one wants to do anything where they feel like they're being attacked and blamed. So don't be afraid of what your needs are. Know that they can be met. It's really in learning how to communicate them gracefully. And if you communicate gracefully, he's going to want to be with you, because then he knows he's not going to have a whole bunch of conflict and fighting, because nobody wants that unless they're a highly unhealthy individual, which you don't want that anyway.
I've seen that so many times. Men really appreciate direct, straightforward communication. I'm a huge fan of that, especially in a way that's not blaming him or making him wrong or holding him responsible for your feelings, right? That is just huge. I heard this great quote the other day. When you were talking, it reminded me of it. It was, when you finally, or when you discover your worth, or when you know your worth, you find it hard to stay around people who don't. And everything you said reminded me of that quote, and it's just so true. I've definitely found that to be true as well. And it's just kind of like when you're expressing these boundaries, and when you're treating yourself like a high value woman, you're like acting according to this belief that you deserve a great man, you deserve to be treated right. Basically, the right man for you is going to see your value right away and step right up and start acting the way he's supposed to. Or if he doesn't, you'll get bored with him and lose interest. Truly, that's what I've certainly found in my own life and the lives of all of my clients. Have you found that as well?
Yes. When you really develop that self-worth and you're giving yourself, investing to somebody who doesn't value you, it'll change from wanting to chase that kind of man to saying, oh no, you're not worth my time. A lot of women say, but I'm always attracted to the bad boy. That's because you just haven't really developed your self-worth, and really you don't value yourself highly enough yet if you're chasing bad boys that don't meet your wants and needs. Once you really get that self-worth down, that cycle is going to break. And you need to do that if you want to stop attracting emotionally unavailable men, which are men who, when you express what your wants and needs are, they don't care.
Exactly. And if they know you're just going to stick around forever, there's no reason for them to step up and meet your needs, right? And I love that you mentioned that, and that is like a perfect segue to, I know you have a free gift that you want to offer everyone watching this interview, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I am offering the 5 things you need to know and do to attract an emotionally available man. So this is about a 45-minute webinar. It's really going to show you the 5 crucial things you need to do to break the pattern of attracting wrong men and attracting relationships where you just end up feeling alone and not understood and unloved and unhappy and unvalued and unimportant. If you want to stop feeling like that and you want to attract the right man where you do feel beautiful and loved and important and cherished, and you feel safe, secure, happy, and fulfilled, and truly, deeply, meaningfully connected to a man, then watch this webinar.
Thank you so much for everyone watching. I'll post a link to that in the description, and it's totally free, so definitely go check that out. I know Orchid has some amazing webinars and summits that she puts on. I know so many women have just gotten so much value from all of her advice and coaching. So thank you so much for being here. This was really, really great information. I hope everyone got a lot out of it, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yes, I would love to. Thank you.